Today is the start. What is it with the midgets? Midgets everywhere. Can you see them in the camera? I wouldn't mind. It's very, very cold and the midgets are crazy. Anyway, today is the day where we start fixing up our fences. It's something I do around this time every year and it's time to get it done now. Places like this here, cut back any of these bushes and things that are touching the electric fence. Just drive along the whole electric fence, check all the connections, check all these insulators and underground cable, make sure there's no stuff rusted or shorted out and get everything working. Another thing then we'll be doing off camera is I'll be draining all the drinkers out. There are 90-gallon drinkers here throughout the farm. They're dotted everywhere. We'll just clean them out with a brush and drain them all out so there's nice fresh clean water when the cows go out. I tried something, was it last year? And I said I'd come back to and give you my opinion on it. So I tried this elasticated stuff because these are gaps that I have running throughout my electric fence. And normally what I used to use is just the ordinary cheap white tape that you get. It always worked. Every 2 years you just change it out, put fresh wire on. So if it's carrying a load onto another fence, then you should put in an underground cable as well. But I find it's great for places like this where you're going to a dead end because it's flexible. You can fire it up into a corner and it's not going to get tangled or anything. And I just found it very, very handy. But I did try this other stuff here. A few people did recommend it to me and I've used it now for the past year and I can safely tell you that I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It shorts out very, very quickly. As you can see there, it's already borne out in every connection. Now this handle has got a bit rusty. Yes, actually they shouldn't rust, shouldn't happen, but some of them do. But anyway, I have ones that aren't rusted. And these here have all rusted where the joint is and it's shorted out far too quick. Another thing as well is you're constantly tightening them and they get loose very, very quickly. The stretch and get loose very quickly. So I'm going to be taking it all back off again and putting back on my white tape. Right, so there is our first gap done and finished with. Not a very good handle, no brand on it either. I just picked them up in the local co-op, but doesn't look great, but maybe it'll fool me. But at least it's not rusted. Just have to make sure that none of this stuff catches, which it doesn't, and we can move on to the next one. Here is this kind of, some people call it bull rope, elasticated rope. You can see the way it's starting to shred here, just from having the underground cable wrapped around, and you see the way it's starting to go. That's actually completely shorted out there. And that's just after 1 year. So it probably work well on different farms for different things, but for me, I don't particularly like it. Other thing I'm going to show you as well is this handle now. Well, it's broken a bit, but it's still working fine. Good quality handle, a long time on, no corrosion whatsoever. That's, in my opinion, the way every handle should be. But this stuff here, see this underground cable that we use? That one there has been on about 10 years now, I'd say, and you can see there's no corrosion on it. It's as good as the day it went on. So I'm going to show you one later on that's only been on a year. We're just going around looking at some of the damage that was done with the storms over the winter time. These are two young trees, ash, and no ash dieback that I can see on these. These are two healthy trees. You can see they're not fully down, they're resting on the hedge, and they've broke the fence down as well. But if you look across here into this field, you'll see the way it pulled the whole shuck up, the whole drain up with it. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of work on clearing that up. We'll have to get a digger in to pull them roots out. Unfortunately, it's not just a once off. We have plenty of trees down and we get to them later on. But yeah, that's just some of the work that we're going to have to entice into in the springtime. Now, by the way, in case you're wondering, I do have the fence off. I'd never be that silly to do this with the fence on. Now, just when I mentioned this underground cable, this cable here you're looking at, see the way it's all rusted out? And eventually that's going to completely just disintegrate and break into pieces. Rusted out. And that is on about 2 years. Once it rusts, and it's for electric fences, that's no good. So the stuff that I have with me, I just looked at the ends of it, and it's already rusting on the ends, so it must be the same stuff. So what I'm going to use is just some of this insulation cover that goes over your plain wire, go around posts and things. And I'm just going to stick a light piece of plain wire in it, and that way it should be much better. And because I don't want to use the same stuff again, be coming back in a lot of months and it all rusted out. So just stick this in here. Nails are already there. Oh, and get in, son. Really, to cut that, you nearly want to be using a hacksaw so you don't squeeze the ends. I don't have a hacksaw with me, so. Alright, so this boy here broke. I'm just going to try to get him out here. And of course, I brought the rustiest pair of vice grips that I have. They've been laying on that fencing bucket. And they've got wet time and time again. They're as old as the hills. Put hook on there. There she is. Now, some people might ask, why do you not use actually the proper latches for this? Well, if you're talking about these things here, I have loads of these, but I've removed most of them after about 2 years because I found they rusted. And that's the reason why I replaced them and just went for a very, very standard job here that actually works. You'll also see on most posts that I'm fencing with, I'll have a blank one on the other side, and all that's for is to hook it off, hook it onto the blank one when you don't want any power to be heading that direction for the rest of the paddock. So nearly every paddock that I'm on has a second one beside it just to turn it off. That's all that's for. And just to show you here on the other side to get a better look at it, these are the 2 trees side by side. You can see the way the root just purely lifted clean out of the ground. So this is the kind of stuff you're up against here. And we've a lot of this. I think that's our Sally. So yeah, I see plenty of that. More over here, plenty around all the boundaries. Unfortunately, the electric fence is alright, but over here it has broke a few posts where the barbed wire is. So that is that now cleared off the wire. And I couldn't help myself when I had the chainsaw in my hand. I ploughed on and took that lump of a, you wouldn't call it a tree, but a big old branch that fell across. And that's all cleared now. Now limb there I'm going to take out when I'm here. Move on to the next bit. So we've wire there on the ground. It's not far off the ground. Really, behave yourself. I got nipped home and got a better pair of vice grips. I don't want you people thinking that us calving people are mean, like. It's just a matter of putting in here, just grabbing this wire and pulling it tight again. It should come up this insulator a bit more now. There we go. Looks good. We're back in business. Hell of a lot tighter. That'll keep her rocking. So I just see here something like that hitting against the post. I don't know why that's on there. Some reason or other. Right. Any wee thing like that will shorten out a fence. So these are some of the hedges that we did get trimmed. And only hedges we trimmed the year is anything that's along a roadway or a laneway like this that we didn't have to go into a field. We never went into any of our fields to do any trimming the year, like a lot of people, just far too wet. Another thing I've noticed here, I'm just after fixing up the gaps over there on this field, but another thing I've noticed is you can see there's not a whole pile of cover on the fields. These fields looked a lot better 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they were lovely and dark green. Now they've gone yellow. As you can see there, look how yellow they are. And the whole fields in this part of the country I've got like that, apart from our hills above maybe, they're a bit better looking, but around here a lot of the land has got yellow. 2 things, wet and cold. This is also a very dry field. It's normally the first field we put our cows to. That's where Bailey is standing there. You can see there's virtually nothing on it, which is the first I've seen it like that. Normally there'd be a hell of a crop of grass on this, as Richard would say from The Funky Farmer, but not this year so far. Slurry would do this ground the world of good. You look at that sky, how grey it is. It's very dark, and this picture probably looks awful apart from obviously looking at me. It's amazing this time of year, the difference between one day and the next. Yesterday was a beautiful day, blue skies, sun shining. So as you can probably see from looking around me, it's lashing rain here at the minute. I wish I could tell you it's a shower, but it isn't a shower. It's been like this about 1 AM last night because I got up to check on an animal and it was doing exactly what it's doing here, and it hasn't eased all day. So yeah, a major problem for us at the moment, for every farmer. These calves here, these are our oldest heifer calves. Come on later, do you see them? Yeah, there's Hope, by the way. You remember her? And this one here is trying to take the camera out of my hand. Okay, I'll stand up because this is going to pull the trousers with me. But the dung is quite black, and that's just the additive we're putting into our micropaste that we're using. It's called milkshake. But I noticed this morning that some of them are starting to turn really light grey and starting to get a bit watery. 2 of them particularly, and that to me is coccidiosis. I've seen it before in this particular house. We got it last year as well. Good thing with coccidiosis is pretty quickly it doesn't cause you any issues. It doesn't cause any issue for the calf either. I use a thing called Bovacox. It's an oral drench. It doesn't take very much and it's only 1 dose. And it's a preventative and a cure. And that gets rid of it. So I'm going to give them a milk replacer now in a few minutes. Nicole is just on her way up to give me a hand here. But before we do that, we have a heifer here that we've been talking about on our Instagram page, who has been playing different with me by fooling me this couple of nights that she was going to calve when she didn't. So this is the very last of our heifers to calve. And she's mad to calve. As you can see, she's well used to going to the calving pen. She's been in it for the last 3 nights, just keeping an eye on her. But she's sick of the calving there now. And the elder's quite full. And she can feel it on her legs, so she'll be looking for a bit of relief of that soon as well. So she can go in there and hopefully calve soon. So now we have 8 cows left to calve. 3 of which should be calved in the next 48 hours. Including this heifer, she's in that bunch as well. So that will take us down to very few left. A lot of people asked Bo, they hadn't seen Bo in a while. Unfortunately for Bo, she repeated 3 times, which I was surprised, and she eventually held on the 3rd repeat. It'll be another few weeks before she calves. But Bo is fine, she's there, and you will see her on the herd, hopefully very soon. It's now 11:15, and just before bedtime, I want to have a quick look because our heifer has calved, and she's been a right old mess of the calving pen. And she has a lovely Angus calf there. I think it's a bull. I think I see potatoes there. But I have one in there, just leave them be. The calf has sucked. Now normally I wouldn't let a calf suck a heifer. No problem with a cow, but not a heifer, because sometimes it can, well, if she's anyway nervous, it can leave her that she'll hold her milk in the milking parlour, which can be a bit of a pain. But this heifer here, she's quite a kind-natured heifer. She's kind of a gentle temperament with her, so don't think we'll have that issue. So I just said, you know what, suck away. I'm going to bed this back out tonight. I'm going to leave the calf with the heifer. He'll suck probably a couple of times through the night, and then we'll milk her in the morning. A few days later now, and although the sun is out, there's a bit of a blue sky over there. We've had a pile of rain in the last 4 days. I came down here on one of our driest fields on the quad, and I've tracked it the whole way down. Just unreal how wet the places are. 15th of March. You can see our well has opened up nicely. And I wish I could say I'd done that on purpose, but I didn't. So the last storm we had took our fence out of it. And you know what? It wasn't in great shape anyway. I'm not too worried about it. Would have loved it didn't fall, of course, but it did fall and it's rotten. So we're going to just tidy this up, take it all down. I'm not going to put a similar fence in this place because it's expensive enough wee job to do and it didn't last very long. So I'm just going to this time put ordinary posts around it and electric fence. Some of you asked, have I done anything since with the well house when we put the new pump in? Well, we look here and answer your question very easily, and the answer is no. I haven't got near it since, so it sits there idle. I will come back to it when the pressure's off with all the other jobs we have to do. I'll come back to it then and we'll get the whole thing fixed and all that hooked up, which actually the bulk of the work is done. It won't take very long. Does need a new roof, and we will put an insulated roof on it as well. It's not priority at the moment. We do need to put a new pipe run up, and it needs to go to a different area of the farm for it to be worthwhile doing. At the minute it just comes out on the laneway, just in front of my own house, so alright for filling buckets or alright for filling drums if you wanted some well water, but no good for the farm. So I need to bring it up and into our dairy or up beside our dairy to make the thing worthwhile. But it's there, and it's a job that will be tackled hopefully soon. Lovely. She's toasty. Right, so there it is. The dogs are in there just grazing now. They'll graze it out in the next couple of days, but it's better with that fence gone, and just threw it in here into the corner. I'll take it away with the front loader whenever we can access our fields. It's interesting though. I had a conversation with my father 2 or 3 nights ago, and we're talking about the well. He was asking me what I was going to do with it. I'm going to go ahead and put the pump in. We're just having a brief conversation about it. And he said, I remember when I dug that hole, it's 12 foot deep. A fella came around who divined it using the sticks, where it's 2 sticks across, I don't know how to divine a well, so I'm not going to attempt to explain it. But he divined the well here and he said if you dig down 12 feet, you'll find water. I think they went down about 11 feet actually and they hit bedrock and water just came piping up. And this here is done with liners the whole way down. The width of that lid that sits on top of it. I'd like to actually put in maybe another liner on top of that just to raise it up a bit, because the big disadvantage of this well and why I wouldn't be that mad on using it as a drinking water source is the fact that hills all come down to it and it sits quite low, so there's a shuck on the other side of that fence as well. And to me, yeah, I'll have to get it tested obviously and see what it's really like. And we can put in a treatment system in the shed as well, but for washing down milking parlours, jobs like that, I'd say it'd be okay. We did drink that water for a long period of time and it was lovely crystal fresh water. I remember that as a child. That's gone back 10 years ago or so. But Dad did tell me when they dug the hole and it all dug out, they're waiting for the liners to come and a cow came down here and she fell into it. She had the whole field to walk around, but no, she fell into the hole. And he said it was an awful melee. You had to get a couple of neighbours over to try and get her out. No mobile phones them times, but they had to hold her head with a rope and tie it some way, anchor it up here to keep her head above the water. He also said it was coming into November. Cows that time could stay out for longer, I suppose. And there wasn't very many cows here that time. He said she was in there for several hours before they got her out. But just thought to myself, look, she must have been freezing. That is a true story, by the way. I'm not BSing you, but the bit at the end, that's all me. Right, so we're up here in a very wet silage field. I'm going to stick a mic on because I know it's quite windy. Cindy Crawford used to do that years ago and I never lost that habit. So we're up here in a silage field. I hope you can hear me better now with the mic on. And Lord Jesus, I can tell you one thing. Our silage ground is wringing wet. There's a couple of sinked places there where we're putting out slurry, I think, the end of last year. Correction, we didn't get any slurry out on our second cut last year. You mind when we baled it was soaking wet, so that would be probably from either me drawing in the bales or the baler itself. Just never got back to the fields to do anything after that. But the water is literally running the top of the ground in this area. This would be a wet area anyway. Remember last year we tried to graze it as late as possible. So the heifers were on this and you can see where they've poached it. You see the water and all the hoof marks. So there wasn't really a whole pile of a frost to fill that in. Not much of a frost for long enough anyway to fill it in. And just the water does lay in it. So yeah, it is ridiculously wet. There's not a mission of coming in here to do any kind of work. Whether it's piping, fertiliser, nothing. You just stay out of this field for the foreseeable future until this weather decides to do something different. There's a couple of spots I'm just looking at here beside me. And the term we use for those is a gullion. That's an awful gullion of a field and basically means very, very wet. But anyway, no point in whinging about it. Nothing can do about it. Right, so I'm up here on top of the hill and I'm going to give you a clip. This is a beautiful spot. Very cold at the minute, but a lovely spot. You can see an unreal distance, 360 the whole way around you, and see the whole outline of the mountains away in the distance. I'm going to get my phone out now because it's got a zoom, but you'll be fit to see what the river looks like and see all the land out there that's completely on the water. You can see the wind turbines. Again, I'll put it up zoomed in with my phone, and that's a place called Mountain Lodge. Loads of wind farms all over this place, but that's a huge one up there, and it's on a townland I think called Seall. But yeah, that water, it catches your whole focus. It just shows you how much rain we've had. There is a stump of a tree that fell last year, or the year before actually, and I need to cut that stump off. It's fell into the neighbouring field, but that stump there would catch the roof of a tractor, so I'll have to get up on the front loader and take that bite out of it. Rotten anyway, but just, it's a dangerous old thing hanging over the field. So this is one of the main reasons why I'm driving the fields today. I'm just having a look. Things like this here, they're laying through the silage field. It's time now to go in and clear them off. And just before I do go further, one of the main reasons why I want to reseed this top part of this hill is the amount of grass that's on it, and it's not good quality grass. It's that old what we call scotch grass, and it's just a sign that the land needs to be reseeded. Sheep would have been a good job probably to put in here and clean that all off, probably would have been ideal, but it's too late to be doing that now and it's way too wet. But speaking of sheep, I spotted something just beside me here. Right, so we're in the back field now. My cattle are roaring in the shed because every time they see me they think they're going to get meal. But this back field is soaking. It's got hard sour looking as well with all the wet on it. It doesn't look pretty now. Here is a tree down here. Now the wind has took this one down and broke the whole fence the whole way along, pulled about 5 or 6 posts along with it when it came down. So that's going to have to be addressed, and this whole fence is going to have to be sorted out as well. Good friend of mine, Jerry, neighbour of mine, whose land is here, and done a huge amount of work to it, great work to it, turned into a super bit of ground. Unfortunately, you can see the water. The river is just on the very far side of that water, and you can see the whole thing's on the water now. It's a sort of field, it doesn't do it any harm. It's just a pain, like anybody else's. He'd probably like to be sowing that because that's one of his silage fields. I did look across my field here and seen a herd of sheep in this field across. They seem to be there a while because they've ate quite a bit across that bankment. I didn't notice them because normally I come up to my shed, which is over here, and I wouldn't see this lower end here, so they must have been laying down there for a while. So they seem to be gone now. They might have made a run for it. You can just see, that's the way your feet go down in this field. It's the type of ground it is, so that's going to take a long time to dry out. There's our sheep friends there, away for a run. So I'm behind the slatted shed here at the minute, where the lime trees is. Lots of debris on the ground, as you can see, but that's normal. It'll not take long to clean that all up. This big Bessie decided to lie down on the field as well. Another ash, that's another one gone. But the good news is, although it's steep here, I can still get in around this way here, which is dry, and get in here with the front loader and chop this up tomorrow. And just then we'll have to put the wire back up as well and fix all that. Probably several posts to go in the whole way over there too. This ground we stand in here is as dry as a bone. Even for the weather we've had, sandy type ground. Not a mighty grower and bordens very quickly when we have warm weather. It's so steep that we can never put slurry in here. We can never dream of coming down here with slurry. It's just woeful. And a camera, by the way, tries to automatically make things look level. These action cameras are notorious for doing that. But trust me, that there is dangerous ground. And there's also a nice drop here at the very bottom the whole way across, so that's going to reassure you as well. So no slurry, but we can get fertiliser out on this, and I will get fertiliser out on this in the next week or so. Give it a push on, get it ready at least for heifers to soon, not soon, but get it growing for when the heifers go out. It'll be a while yet before we let them out, because they're actually doing very well in the house. So there's no point in breaking that cycle when the weather's still bad. Just give it time, let grass grow, so there's plenty ahead of them, so when they do go out, they can stay out. Alright, so it's the next day, and I made a wee adjustment to the bottom of my bin here. So there's a couple of wee things here that were stopping this bin from going in, and they were just pieces of angle that I was able to cut off yesterday, and that allows the bin to slide in underneath. So I'm fit to fill the mail a wee bit quicker, because the bin is almost empty. It's probably to about there now, and it's gone below the level of the side filler, so this here just leaves it very handy rather than trying to route with buckets and things. Just put a wee lock into it at a time and use it up and then fill it again. It allows me to get the bin empty as well. And I think, no, still coming. Can be a wee bit hard at times to get it out of the bottom of this, but we try to empty the bin every time so that nothing lies in the bottom of it here. That last load was quite dusty as well. It smells alright, it looks alright. That's that done, there's the heifers fed. Now, before I do leave the video today, it's important, I want to just say something. If you look outside me, yes, it was a lovely day. My intention today was to go and cut them trees, but it has been pouring last night and pouring all morning, heavy rain, and it's raining now as it is. And this is what a lot of farmers are dealing with at the minute, and I know you'll hear a lot of people, that's all they talk about, and I'm not going to talk about it much more after this. But the reason I mention it so much is I get a lot of messages between Instagram, Facebook and whatnot. Believe it or not, the comments that you actually see on a YouTube channel are nothing compared to the comments you get privately. Fortunately, I can't get through the messages, all of them, but I do pick out a few of them, and I get a lot of farmers, a lot of other people too, from all sorts and walks of life and occupations. And people are suffering at the moment, and the mentality of people is very low. I see that in local people as well when I'm meeting them, very frustrated. You can see the tension on their body. And you can't blame them. Me as a dairy farmer, I'd love to see my cows outside now. I'd love to see my slurry out, and I'd love to be actually have my fertiliser in the yard ready to start putting out my fertiliser. But none of those things are going to happen. Not for a long time by the looks of it. And that's hard on farmers, especially because we've done all this feeding of cattle inside. This is the time of year where we can let out the cattle, have a look at them in the field, and I kind of feel that we've accomplished something. Cattle are now out, and the long winter is over, if you get me, and that's our celebration day. It is for me, but it's not just people who are working with animals. Tillage farmers are going through hell. You can imagine they rely solely on ground and being able to go into ground and sow their crops and do whatever. So it's a huge hit on them as well. It affects all walks of life, and the messages that I get, some of them are hard to read. Some people are in a hard bad situation. So the reason why I mention it here and try to show the few bits and pieces is just to show you that you're not on your own. 99% of the farmers I'm talking to are in the exact same situation. So it's very important to keep the heads up. I actually found myself watching a channel recently and was drawn to it for some reason, and that was the Once a Day Farmer. He's out in New Zealand. Andrew runs a super tidy farm, Jersey cows. You should go and check him out, even if you're not from a farming background. There's something about it. I couldn't figure out for a long time what that was, and to my wife Sinead came in last night and she says, my God, look at that view, look at the countryside, look at the blue skies. Then I realised why I was watching it. And it wasn't just the fact that Andrew's a great lad, there's great content. It's the fact of the sunshine. Seeing that sunshine, seeing his cows out in the lush green grass in the lovely countryside reminded me just exactly what it is I love about this industry and love about the countryside itself. It's just the prolonged dull weather has faded that for us, but it will come back. The brighter days will come. Believe it or not, they will come. Best advice I can give you is look after this. That's the most important thing. Everything else will fall into place. Enjoy your St. Patrick's Day. We'll talk to you soon. Just to end today's video, there's another little heifer calf, big heifer calf, to add to the collection. Mind yourself.